Welcome to Coffee and a Weather Map with Jeff. I can't talk this morning. It is July 16th, 2025, and we'll just jump right into what's going on in the weather around the area. Well, it's still a fairly similar situation to the last few days. We have stalled fronts in New England that go back into the upper Great Lakes, and one up in Quebec that comes down through the lakes into the central plains now instead of the northern plains. It has pushed a little south into the rest of the region, and then into the Rockies, where it then ends around, I think yesterday it was in central Oregon. Now it's right around the border of Oregon and California. To show you a couple things here, now that I have my editing functions up and running, we have this outflow boundary here, which we'll see here in a bit. But for the most part, that is pushing on. It is starting to fall apart as it gets more and more spread apart. The system that's in here is kind of a wide branching area of rain showers and thunderstorms, which you can see here on radar scope. Here's where the outflow boundary was at 9Z, which was 5 a.m. It's now, there may be a 12Z1 in there. Here's the low pressure system. And then there's more rain that goes off to the north. But here's the outflow boundary, and then the front itself is draped out around here. There was a fairly large system last night, so that the rain-cooled air has created its own wind and is pushing out in front. Okay, let's get back to where we were at. As we move on, we still have that jet streak or jet stream in this general area. Kind of give you an idea that this is the southern extent pretty much of the jet stream at 500 millibars, with this X here, which is the short wave, roughly going like that. An area of low pressure in the upper atmosphere. It's moving across the northern plains and soon to be in the upper Great Lakes here during the afternoon. The best favorable uplift area of the jet streak just behind, or just in front of it, is here. So that's going into Canada. The Canadians have had warnings out up in that general area, so that's something to watch out for if you live up in those areas north of the border. Otherwise, we have another jet streak that is expected to move down into the region as well. Just to kind of give you an idea of how everything is in motion, you have the area of low pressure in the center there with the temperatures shown out here. The front moves down. I can't edit moving pictures, unfortunately, with this one. You can see where the cloud boundary is. That's also where the temperature gradient is the most. And it's starting over again. Okay, I did this as a screen capture earlier. And then the front goes down into the Rockies. There's the low pressure system that is the main weather maker. And then we also see down to the south, which I failed to mention before, what still is 93L. And we'll talk about that in a little bit as we look at some of the other information. And just to give you an idea of the screen capture here, so 93L is down in this general area. Just to give you an idea of what's going on here, 93L is down here. We will take a look at that in a little bit more depth when we get to the Atlantic portion, or the hurricane portion of it. But here's that low up to the north, the front, warm front here. Probably could switch the color out, and it would be a cold front here. And then you have this one there, and then the whole cascade going out to pretty much into this general area is the front. There's another low, I think, in this general area too. And then we have high pressure up to the north and high pressure out here. Taking a look at the WWA map, things are a little bit quieter, at least as far as the morning is concerned. We still have some air quality areas around the Great Lakes, but there is a flood watch up in Wisconsin, and we'll talk a little bit more about that with the ERO. A few areas that still have some heat advisory in New England and upstate New York. There's a big area of heat advisory in the lower Mississippi Valley, south of the Ohio River, and that goes all the way down into Louisiana. And there is now a flood watch in lower Louisiana as 93L starts moving closer in and the heavy rain that is expected. As things have started to at least cool down a bit, we still have, it looks like, a heat advisory, possibly an excessive heat warning up there in the Pacific Northwest in Washington, heat advisory down the rest of I-5 in Oregon and into Northern California, as well as a heat advisory in Western. All right, we saw the front and the low that's in this general area. So anything north of that front, for the most part, except for right along the front range, we're expecting the thunderstorm potential to continue to move down. As you saw, there was just mostly rain up in this general area. There wasn't a whole lot of thunder, and you don't get a whole lot just north of the low like that. But we, as the low continues to move to the east into the upper Great Lakes, Wisconsin and now West Michigan are all in the slight risk. Would not be surprised if there is a watch box out in this general area later today. And then also one probably out here in the front range of the Rockies, out in the eastern plains of Wyoming and Colorado. Otherwise, with this whole system and it trying to push east and a little bit south, we are expecting to have some marginal severe weather out through that area. Not much to show really here, as I mentioned before, that system as it continues to move east, and then we have all the next shortwave as well as low pressure systems in the Intermountain West and up in the eastern part of Montana and Wyoming. We will expect that there just be general thunderstorms across most areas. I believe for when this was day 3 yesterday, this was just all one big area of general thunderstorms. Well, now we've got a marginal, which goes in from New England down through into the mid-Atlantic and then out the Ohio Valley into Missouri. Again, with that low pressure system expected to continue to move off, that is one of the issues that would cause at least some heavier thunderstorms. And then it looks like they just have general thunder. It's probably just too early to predict how this is going to go. So general thunder across the a good portion of the forecast area across the nation, the northern and central plains. It looks like the only place that doesn't have thunderstorms, or the only two places, is Texas, the Great Lakes into New England, as well as then down the West Coast. And this is from several things. We have a short wave that is going to probably move down into the northern Rockies with another cold front and low pressure system in there generally. You've got 93L still out there into Louisiana, and it's probably, as well as the moisture that keeps coming in and the cold front that will start to wash out and become a little bit more stagnant in the mid-Atlantic states. We'll expect to have thunderstorms south of those areas as well. All right, to take a look at the excessive rain, well, our thunderstorms that we have currently going on up in the northern part of in the northern part of the upper Great Lakes, so Lake Superior, upper peninsula of Michigan to Minnesota, that big area of rain that was north of the low that's roughly in Iowa, That's going to continue on. That's where they're expecting most of the heavier rain to be for the day associated with that low, other than the stuff that fires up right around the low, especially with the severe weather threat. We continue with that slight risk there in Virginia, with that other stalled boundary that's kind of washing out, but it's still enough to help give the uplift all the way back into Missouri. But the slight risk there is in Virginia, North Carolina, the mountains of western North Carolina, and in South Carolina, and the mountainous part of Georgia. We continue to have heavy rain expectations down in western Florida around Tampa, just due to 93L, with most of the thunderstorms offshore and getting into that western part as it moves across. Texas still has a marginal threat for some of this going on, as well as then the monsoonal moisture moving up out of the Bay of California, or the Gulf of California, across Mexico and into Arizona. For tomorrow, as the system continues to move east in the plains and upper Great Lakes, we have that slight risk of excessive heavy rain running from about Wisconsin all the way down into Kansas along the front. Remember that the severe weather threat is Wisconsin, Illinois, and a little bit into West Michigan. We also have a area in the Mid-Atlantic / lower Great Lakes, which is basically Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio, where there's a slight risk of heavy rain as well. All right, on day 3, that front will basically be stretched from New England all the way through the lower Great Lakes and into the Central Plains, and then back into Arizona and New Mexico, where we have that marginal risk. And then we have the slight risk from 93L, or whatever the tropical depression number is. I think it's maybe 5, would be as it gets in there closer to Louisiana. And as I said, we will take a look at that here in just a second, especially since on day 4, which I don't usually show, is a moderate risk, which is rare for WPC to do this, in Louisiana, as 93L tropical depression, whatever, maybe Dexter for the storm name, if it can get itself organized, but it doesn't look like that right now, that it would cause a lot of heavy rain. And that's what this particular system is expected to do. We do have the next system coming down out of Canada by that time, and that looks like there should be a slight risk of heavy rain there in South Dakota, eastern Nebraska, and Iowa, as well as then in the mountains of West Virginia and eastern Kentucky. All right, as I said, Hurricane Center. So the disturbance is still at 40% chance of formation. That says in 7 days, but if you read down at the bottom, formation chance through 48 hours is medium and also 40%. So that next 7 days is actually expected within the next 2 days if it can get there. 40% is not great. It is not bad, but it's not great. So there is a lot of uncertainty to it. One of the things is we show that the low is located here. That was roughly the storm marks as of 6Z, so that was 2 a.m. Eastern time, 1 a.m. Central time. They're just getting into the panhandle of Florida, just along the shoreline. I think as it's gone on, it's more up towards Tallahassee now, getting into the rest of the panhandle. And we'll take a look at that. Most of the rain and thunderstorms are off the coast and trying to spin something up. We'll see, and then whether or not that can take the low further south. At this point, the 6Z model tracks, and these are for the hurricane models themselves, all have everything tracking pretty much right across the coast there into Panama City, Florida, and then Destin, and then offshore a little bit there before it reaches Mobile Bay. and then into Louisiana by 48 hours. And if we look at the GFS ensemble, that's what the GEFS is, it is showing roughly the same sort of thing, although it has a slightly more northern track and northern start point, more up towards the Florida-Georgia line, and then across that before it gets down a little bit into the Gulf, and then more a little north of Lake Pontchartrain and New Orleans. So that's pretty much how it is looking at this point as far as the tropical is concerned. For the local forecast for northern Michigan and South Texas, since that's how I got this all started, and I still have people who watch this, looking at the Gaylord National Weather Service forecast, today is going to be humid with temperature 76 to 88. So it's a little cooler than yesterday. And if you remember the maps that I showed for yesterday, the mid 70s are going to be all up in the UP and near some of the tip of the mitt, while the high 80s are going to be down in the interior part down towards M55. We have scattered showers and thunderstorms, which we kind of knew. Tonight, we continue with the thunderstorms, areas of heavy rain with this. We've had a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. I've seen a few posts on X about that, and maybe we'll talk about that in a future time. Lows tonight, 54 to 70, and then for Thursday, we have a high of 64 to 77. After the front goes through, temperatures should cool off. Those 60s will probably be mainly in the Upper Peninsula, although the tip of the mitt would probably see at least mid to upper 60s, and then 70s as you get further south, especially down along M55, which is the southern part of the forecast area for Gaylord's responsibility. And forget what I'm using here. Going over to Corpus Christi office and South Texas, they're still concerned with the tropical weather outlook, as they should be. They are on the Gulf Coast, so that is something for people to beware. Although at this point, things look like it would be pointing away from there, but it's still good to have that out there for people to monitor. Otherwise, it's going to be hot and dry in South Texas. And this is south of where all those rain showers and thunderstorms have been occurring, which is in south central Texas, just to the north in the hill country. Here in the brush country, we're expecting temperatures to get over 100 degrees with 103 in Laredo and 101 in Tilden and Freer, Cotulla 102. But as you get further to the east, of course, with the water temperatures of the Gulf of Mexico being in the upper 80s, it is 88 degrees there along the shoreline in Port Lavaca, and then 90 at Rockport and 91 in Corpus Christi. Victoria, in the Victoria Crossroads region, is considered to be about mid-90s, as it is far enough inland that the sea breeze would not affect it until much later in the day. All right, as I said, upper 80s on the beach cast, low risk of rip currents. Tonight, temperatures in the 70s primarily, with the coolest ones right in the center of the brush country and the coastal plains, while out on the coast it is in almost to 80 degrees, and over in Laredo and Cotulla it's in the mid 70s. And the 5-day outlook looks a lot the same as it has. Like I said, it's pretty much a summertime pattern. We've got very small chances of thunderstorms on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, with temperatures primarily in the 90s to the lower to mid 100s out through the rest of the week. And then our low temperatures, 73 to roughly 80 degrees, so low mid 70s to the lower 80s for lows each night. And for that, I will close this out. Have a great day and take care.